Okay, so my hi, good day. My name is Emmanuel Daniel, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the temperature converter app I built using Flutter and that. I'll be explaining the widgets I used, how I manage state, my code structure, the logic, and show you how the app works. I'll also address all the parts of the rubric that have been given to us as we go along into the video. So my app uses a wide variety of widgets together to achieve both functionality and enhance user experience. Um, there's a material app. If we There's a material app wrapped in a stateful widget to manage app-wide state. Like some key implementations that I did. I don't want to spoil the surprise as we move forward. The main screen is built using column and row widgets to organize. If I come over to screen, is built using column and row widgets to organize content based on orientation. Then for input for the conversion, I used a text field for user input, and to display the result of that text field, I used a container. So you can see the text field here, and then the container that displays it right around here. The conversion options for selection, I used radio widgets to allow users to toggle between Fahrenheit and Celsius and vice versa. I tracked this with an enum and updated the UI using set state. As without set state, the UI would not be able to refresh for us to see the changes made. So you can see the radio buttons for C, and you can see the radio buttons here as well, both for both Celsius and for Fahrenheit. So I also used the list view builder, which we learnt about in class, um to display the history and for it to be scrollable. So it displays it dynamically, keeps everything within where it needs to be, and then only shows the items when needed. For interactivity, I used the elevated button widget to one for conversion, and I went above the scope of the project to add another one to clear the history. Now, I have kept the code modular and clean with file logic that was taught to us during class. I have one screen since it's just a one screen application called temperature converter.dat. For my utilities and code logic, I have it inside the logic.dat file, which we'll come back to later. My main file is called main.dat outside of all the different folders. The sorry, the if you look at the logic of the file logic.dat, the logic contains a class called temp converter with a static convert method. Now, the method takes in a value and a direction, input and a star for C. This just specifies the type of variable they are, either a double or a boolean, and then it returns a custom object called the temperature conversion result. Now, the object has two properties, the converted result and a string. This is the result, and a string that is formatted for history tracking. The main UI file, temperature converter.dat, is easy to read with the way I named the variables very easily, like converted value, history, controller, or selected. So many easy variables to read. I've Beyond the basic requirements, when we look at the effort I took in writing this code, I added a few extra features. For example, there's a toggle switch in the app bar that lets you switch between light and dark mode, which updates the app's theme using set state, which wasn't included in the rubric, but I decided to add. I also included the clear history button, which allows users to reset their conversion history easily, which also wasn't included in the rubric. I also added input validation using double.try pass if we go into conversion to ensure that users can only enter numbers into the text field. If invalid input is detected, the if invalid input is detected, the conversion does not go through. Now, let me demonstrate to you how the app works. If I come here, this is the app. Temperature conversion Fahrenheit to Celsius or Celsius to Fahrenheit, where one has to be selected. You can't have any value. You can't not select a value. You have the input and then this is the output. Then the convert button and clear history. So I can first enter off a value called a 100. Now the way the input title goes up is because of something called the form title for the input, and then it just shifts up and I just thought that it looked very clean and cool with the UI. If I choose input 100 and then Fahrenheit to Celsius, when I press convert, it's going to show 100 to 37.8. I can also switch to Celsius to Fahrenheit and enter a value like 0, for example, and press convert, and then it shows 32.0. As I do this, each result gets saved to the history below, and you can see that it updates dynamically using list view builder, where you can see F to C 100 to 37.8, C to F 0 to 32.0. If I make a typo and enter a non-numeric value like ABC, for example, the app, nothing happens to the app, but it just ignores it. The app doesn't crash, no error show, but it just shows you that nothing is getting updated and you can't enter anything. And finally, if I press clear history to reset the list, the whole history gets cleared and you can start afresh. Now, also, there's a temperature. If you look at the app bar right here, there's a team switcher. If I click here, just allows me to switch perfectly between teams. And then finally, for design, I kept things looking very clean and modern. I used team.data with a color scheme of green for a consistent material look. The layout also adapts to portrait and landscape mode. In portrait, everything is stacked vertically, but in landscape, everything is also stacked vertically, just well arranged. The app is called temperature.conversion, and then the app maintains consistent behavior across different screen sizes and orientation. I'm using the Pixel 9 to show this during the demo, but if you use the Pixel 7 or a different type of phone, or even run it on your main phone, it would still give you the same thing. So, in summary, this app demonstrates an understanding of state management, good UI design. It's very interactive, and I think I implemented good practices for Flutter development. There's a good folder hierarchy. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Everything is being called well, and I think I also added some extra improvements, thoughtful extra improvements like the dark mode and clearing of the history. Thank you for watching, and I hope to get a good grade.